Welcome Year 8s to this lesson. In it, we're going to be looking at stem and leaf plots. We're going to obviously see how they're constructed and I'll also run through some of just the worksheet that I'm going to get you to do as a practice with stem and leaf plots as well. So stem and leaf plots is just one way of displaying some data. You might recall looking at these maybe in Year 7. It's one way that you can display data and it's quite handy because it puts the data in order and it spreads the data out a little bit as well, which can help us to see, I guess, where there's clusters of data. So whether we've got lots of low values, lots of high values, or a nice even spread of values. So the data does need to be numerical to make a stem and leaf plot. So that means that we don't have categories of data. We have data that is presented in numbers because it's referring to a quantity. It is best used for reasonably small data sets. So we don't use stem and leaf plots for really large data sets because then they end up being really, really big. And they're not very practical to have to try and make something that is that large. We've got other displays that would be more appropriate for that. So in terms of what they look like, I haven't got one drawn here yet because I'm going to draw one with you now. What we do is we split into two sections. We split our data basically into two pieces. And so what we're going to have is something called the stem, which I will label. I'll just change the color. On the left-hand side, some of our data or a portion of each of our numbers is going to be displayed in the stem, and then the rest is going to be shown in the leaves or in the leaf. Now you'll see I've actually made the stem part a lot smaller in terms of width because we're going to have more leaves than we are stems. So what happens is each individual data value, so if I say take the 48 for example, I'm going to split it up. And the main thing you want to do is make sure that the last digit in your number is what goes in the leaf. So we should only ever have one number from each of the data values that goes into the leaf. And the rest of the number will actually be shown in the stem. Now I'm saying it that way because I'm going to show you some different examples where we're not using numbers like this. These sorts of numbers are really, really handy in a stem and leaf. What I mean is we can actually use numbers that have decimals in them as well. So you'll see my second example. I'll show you how to do that one in a moment. So what we do is we first, I think it's a great idea to first look at your numbers and consider how many we're going to have in the stem. And we do our stem first, and then we can enter all the leaves in afterwards. So if you have a look here, find your smallest number. So you see I've got a number 3. Now the tens digit for a number 3 is 0 because it can be written as 0, 3. And so my stem would actually be a 0. Then find your maximum number, your largest number, and you'll see here that I've got 50. So that means that the stem for this one would be a 5. So what that means is I need to make sure my stem goes from 0 up to 5. Now I don't want to skip any numbers. Even if there aren't any numbers in the teens or the 20s or 30s or 40s, I still need to have that in the stem. So we make sure we've got our lowest number and our highest number shown. And then what we want to do is start entering the leaves. Now what's really important is that we put this, our final stem and leaf plot does have to be in order. So I like to do this nice and slowly. I start with my lowest number, which I know was a 3. And then you just put a line through that number, or I might just underline it just so I can still see the data, just so that I know that I've already entered that one in. And now I'll look for any other numbers that are less than 10, and I've got one here, which is 8. Now I do need to make sure it's in order, and that's why I didn't put the 8 first, because these leaves here must go from lowest to highest. Then we want to look for anything in the teens. So I can see over here I've got 11. I've also got 17. So in terms of the leaf, that will come up as a 1 and then as a 7. Now notice as well that I'm lining up these numbers. I'm making sure that they're all drawn in a line because we shouldn't see some of the leaves squished together and then others really spread out. We want to see it nice and structured. Okay, so I've done the teens. Next, I'm into the 20s. So start with your lowest one that's in the 20s. I've got 21. And then I've got, I can see here 26 as well. So then I'll put that next. Into the 30s, I think I've only got 37. So I'll put the 7 in. In the 40s, I've just got these two here. So I've got 46 and 48. So 6, 8. And then finally, my last number is 50. So that would mean a leaf of 0. Now, before you finish, there's two important things actually. The first is to make sure you've entered all your numbers. So I like to just do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got 10 values up here. Then I check that I've got 10 down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I know I haven't left any out or put any in twice, or I hope I haven't put any in any double ups. If you do have two numbers that are the same in your original data, that means you do actually have to put another leaf in to make sure that that data is represented twice, since the number was represented twice in the data itself. The last thing that we're going to put in is something called a key. Now, it doesn't matter where you draw it. You can just put it underneath or to the right or to the left. I might just put mine to the right if I just, just have to erase this little bit just because I didn't actually need all of that. Now, a key is just a way of showing your reader what these numbers represent. So what we do, it doesn't have to be in a box, I've just happened to do that. We write key, and then we just demonstrate. Now you can pick any number at all. I might just pick, say, my first value, which was 48. And you write how that would have been shown in your stem and leaf plot. So the number 48 would have been shown like this with the 4 in the stem. Then we put a little line to represent the line that's in our stem plot, and we put the leaf. Now the reason we want to do this is we want to tell the reader that this number here is representative of the number 48. Now, that's going to be more clear why we do that when we look at example 2, because in example 2, you're going to see that 4/8 is not always 48. It could have actually been 4.8 if I was displaying some data that had decimals in it. So that's where the key is essential. So never forget to include the key. I might just put a note in red here because it is so important. We always include a key. So always include is what I'm going to say. Very important. Now, that's our first stem and leaf plot done. What I'm going to just show you before we look at some of the practice examples you're going to do is how we might display data that looks like this. So in our second one, which you can also put into your summary book as you will do all the examples that we go through, of course. With this second one, I'm going to start off just like before, putting my lines in and labeling my stem and leaf. Now, I have given myself more space here this time with the stem, but no reason for that. Just to show you really that you can draw it just like a T if you want to. You also don't need to change colours. You can do it all in the same colour. I just can't help myself when I've got so many to choose from. Okay, so if we look at our data now, basically, remember before I said only one number from each of our data values can go in the leaf. So that means that these ones here that I'm circling, they are our leaves, which means that the other digit is what is going to go into our stem. I'll just remove that just so it doesn't impede us being able to read the number. So if we have a look, let's have a look at what our lowest stem value will be. If you have a look at these two, both of them start with 0, and so that's what I'll need to have in my stem. Then have a look at your largest or your highest stem value. If you have a look, we've got we've got 4 here and here. So our largest number is actually 4.4, which means that we need to go up to 4. There we go. Now this time in our leaf, we're actually putting the 10th. So the number after our decimal point is a 10th. So these tenths are what we're going to plot in the leaves. I might go with blue. So first of all, with 0 point, well, I've got 0.1, so that's our lowest. And then I've got 0.2. So I'll write it as a 1 and then a 2. Again, I'm just going to underline so I know I've done those ones. Looking at anything that starts with a 1, I've got 1.6, 1.5, and I've got 1.8. So 1.5 is the lower of those, then 1.6, and then 1.8. So I'll write 5, 6, and 8. Again, nice even spacing. Then I'll go to 2.2, then 2.4. So I can see that there. Into the 3s, I've got 3.9. And into the 4s, I've got 4.3, then 4.4. All right, check how much data. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8. I've got 10 pieces. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 pieces of data. So that's your checking mechanism, just to make sure you haven't missed any. And then finally, what I'll do with this one is I will add the key. So again, it doesn't matter which data value you choose here. I'm just going to choose 1.6. It happens to be the first one in my list. So what I'll do is write 1, and how was it displayed? Well, it was 1 in the stem, then it was a 6 in the leaf. And what does that represent? That represents the number 1.6. Now, if there was a unit attached to this, say this was weights or something like that, say that this was measured in kilograms, I'd also include that here. So I could say what the unit was in this particular data. But since that's just numbers that I've made up for the sake of this example, I won't include a unit at this stage. So there's 2 examples there for you of how stem and leaf plots are drawn. What you are going to do now is you're going to look at this worksheet. So some of you would have received this at the end of last term, but if you are away, it is available for you on the Google Classroom for you to download. So in this, on this worksheet, what you'll notice is it's got an example for you. It's got an unordered stem and leaf plot first. It's unordered just so that the data could be sorted. Whoops, unordered. But we know that it has to be ordered, so the final version of the stem plot will look like this. Now you notice I didn't bother doing that before. I just find it a lot easier just to order it as I create it. It's up to you really whether you want to just sort your data first and then put it in order. So what I'd like you to do now is I want you to try this one, 1A. Just pop a line through 1B for me. Oops. Because what you're going to notice with 1B is it won't actually fit. It doesn't actually fit in the space that's given. So we'll just cancel that one out. So I want you to try 1A. You don't need, it says to do it just a stem and leaf plot here and then an ordered one. You don't only really need to make sure it's ordered. So this part here, this is just, I guess, like a draft or a sorting mechanism. So we're going to do 1A and we're going to do these ones down here. There's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. What you'll notice is with this one here, it's much the same as what we've done. And this one here is not much different either to what we've done because it's decimals, but just like before, we just put our last digit in the leaf, and you'll notice our smallest number here is 40. There it is there, 40. So all you'll need to do is make sure you put your leaf in. I can help you with that now. We'll go from 40 to 41 and then to 42 because we need all of these leaves. And 44, and we've even got up into 45. I can see 45.9 over here. So that hopefully will get you started with that one, and then your leaves will be your final digits. Do make sure you put a key for each of these as well. And then just with the last two, before you get started, you'll notice these numbers are in the hundreds. And so in the stem, instead of having single digits, we've actually got numbers 11, 12, 13. So something like this one as an example. Our leaf is the 7 and our stem is actually 12 because everything before the leaf needs to go into the stem. So I wanted you to see those examples as well, so that you can see quite a difference in the data that we can display in a stem and leaf plot. So don't forget your key as well, and I want you to try those ones. And do make sure, of course, that you are asking questions if you have any, and you've got many ways that you can do that. So I will obviously get you to do this now, but there will be some follow-up questions as well, so I can check on how you're going.